Welcome back to Scripture Horror. Tonight we're diving straight into the kind of long-haul nightmares that make even veteran truckers grip the wheel a little tighter. These ain't the usual roadside tales you laugh off in daylight. These the ones that sit heavy in your mind long after the headlights fade, the kind you remember when you're alone on a dark stretch of road and the radio cuts to static. We're heading deep into the shadow-soaked heart of America's highways, where the asphalt feels endless and the darkness feels alive. The stories you're about to hear ain't rumors. They come from the men and women who live behind the wheel, people who've watched the sun rise in 3 different states without stopping, people who've seen things out there that can't be explained, can't be shaken, can't be forgotten. Drivers swear they've picked up hitchhikers who smiled, sat quiet, and then vanished without opening a door. Others watched sealed cargo disappear without a lock broken, without a bolt shifted. Some crossed paths with hunters who weren't animals but weren't human either, stalking the interstate like it was their territory. And then there's the rest stops, the cursed ones, where shadows stretch wrong, whispers follow you, and every step you take toward the exit feels like it pushes it farther away. These confessions come straight from the asphalt. No embellishment. No extra details. Just raw truth from drivers who've lived through nights most people wouldn't survive, much less believe. For safety, a few names and routes are blurred, but the fear? Untouched. Every chill, every breathless moment, every whisper in the dark is exactly how it was told. If you're new here, subscribe for your nightly dose of true horror. Hit the bell so you don't miss when the night starts talking. Now buckle up. Because tonight, we're rolling into the places where reality bends, where the dark listens and the rules of the world stop applying. Out here, nothing is what it seems. And once you enter these highways, the road won't let you go easy. Darren Holt had been hauling freight for nearly 17 years, and at 42, he honestly believed he'd already seen the worst America's highways could throw at him. He'd survived breakdowns in 100-degree deserts, blizzards that ate whole towns, and reckless drivers who treated 18-wheelers like toys. Nothing rattled him anymore. Nothing scared him. But on that frozen stretch of Wyoming Route 287, one October night, all of that changed. It was 2:40 a.m., the dead hour of the road, when the world feels like it's holding its breath. Darren was hauling a flatbed stacked with steel beams, cutting across the plains on a route he'd driven dozens of times. But the moment he crossed into central Wyoming, something felt wrong. A thick, icy mist slid down from the hills, swallowing the stars and reducing his headlights to weak yellow smudges on glass. Visibility dropped to 30 feet, barely enough to stay between the lines. Even the engine noise felt muted, smothered by the fog. His CB radio, usually alive with chatter, had been silent for almost an hour. No weather updates, no deer warnings, no jokes, nothing. He hadn't seen another vehicle in 40 miles. Just fog, he told himself. Just another lonely night. But the fog wasn't acting like fog. It clung to the mirrors, drifted behind the trailer, slid across the road like something alive. He checked his GPS, 60 miles north of Rawlins, when he suddenly saw her. A figure on the shoulder. A woman, standing perfectly still on the right side of the road, appearing through the swirling haze like she had been carved from the mist itself. She wore a long, pale blue dress, the fabric drifting like smoke around her legs. Her right arm was extended, thumb out, classic hitchhiker pose. Darren's heart thumped once, hard. A woman hitchhiking alone? At nearly 3 a.m.? In freezing fog? Impossible. Every trucking rule said to keep moving. Company policy said absolutely no pickups. But something about her made his foot ease off the throttle. He slowed. Downshifted. Air brakes hissed. The truck rolled to a stop 20 feet past her. For a long moment, Darren just stared at the silhouette in his mirror. She hadn't moved an inch. Damn it, he muttered, grabbing his flashlight. The cold slapped him the moment he stepped outside. The mist hung thick, brushing against his legs like cold breath. His boots crunched loudly on the shoulder gravel as he approached. "Ma'am?" he called carefully. "You stranded out here?" No reaction, no flinch. No breath. Up close, he noticed her dress wasn't remotely modern lace sleeves, a buttoned collar, a long, sweeping skirt straight out of the 1950s. Her hair was set in perfect curls, untouched by the damp fog. "Ma'am?" Are you all right? She turned, and Darren felt his blood freeze. Her face was pale, unnaturally pale, almost translucent. Her eyes were solid black, empty pits with no whites, no irises. And her mouth stretched into an impossible smile, far wider than any human jaw could manage, revealing long, sharp, bone-white teeth. Then her voice drifted out, soft but crystal clear through the fog. "I've been waiting for you, Darren." His flashlight shook violently. How do you know my name?" Her smile twitched wider. "I know everything about you, Darren Michael Holt. Born July 12, 1983, in Salem, Oregon. Your father's name was Thomas. Your first dog was Ranger. You broke your arm falling from an oak tree when you were 9, her head tilted unnervingly far to the side. And you've driven this road exactly 43 times, Darren stumbled back. Some of those things no one on earth knew, not his friends, not even his ex-wife. The oak tree accident? He never told a soul. What are you?" he whispered. Her black eyes gleamed like oil. "I want you to take me home." The air temperature dropped so fast his breath turned to thick white clouds. "Home?" he croaked. "I've been waiting on this road for 70 years, 10 months and 9 days, she said softly. "Waiting for the one driver who can finally take me there. Waiting for you, Darren. 70 years. 1955. His brain screamed at him to run. "I'm sorry," he stammered, backing away. "I can't help you." "I have to go." Her smile didn't change, but the fog around her pulled tight, spinning like a small cyclone. The cold bit into his skin like needles. "You cannot leave me here, Darren," she said, her voice now layered, echoing unnaturally. "Not when you are the one I waited for. That was enough." Darren turned and sprinted. Boots pounding the pavement, lungs burning with cold, the woman's musical, yet horribly wrong laughter echoing behind him. He threw himself into the cab, slammed the door, locked it, and fired up the truck. The tires spun before gripping hard, and he shot forward. In the mirror, he saw her figure dissolving into the mist, disappearing piece by piece. Right before she vanished completely, she lifted her hand in a slow, eerie wave. And her whisper drifted through his air vents. "Goodbye, Darren, until next time." 10 miles later, the fog vanished instantly. The sky cleared. Stars everywhere. But Darren's skin still crawled. He didn't stop until he reached the bright truck plaza outside Rollins. Engine running, hands shaking, he grabbed his phone and searched the highway's history. And there she was. 1955. Lena Whitford died in a crash on that exact stretch of Route 287. Returning from a homecoming dance. Fog had hidden her wreck for 9 days. Newspapers recorded decades of sightings of a woman in blue. The reports slowed in the 90s when the road was rebuilt, but something had disturbed her resting place. Because now she was back, stronger, smarter, and she knew him. 3 months later, dispatch called. Another driver, Jace Turner, had crashed on that same stretch. Jackknifed across both lanes. Barely survived. Police found him shaking, screaming about a woman in a blue dress trying to climb into his cab, calling him by name. Telling him things about his childhood. Jace quit trucking the next morning. Darren tried reaching him. Jace vanished, changed his number, moved states, and Darren understood. Lena was still out there. Waiting in the mist. Learning. Searching for a driver willing or stupid enough to take her home. Darren never drove that highway again, but on foggy nights when the radio goes silent, he sometimes hears faint laughter drifting through his vents, followed by a soft whisper, "I'm still waiting for you, Darren." Raina Holloway had been driving long-haul rigs for 18 years when she pulled into the Silver Dunes Rest Point on Highway 95 in southern Arizona. At 41, she'd survived everything the road could throw at her. Dust storms that erased whole lanes, drunk drivers drifting across the highway, breakdowns that left her alone for hours in the desert. She trusted her instincts more than any map, but none of that prepared her for the night she became the chosen target of a predator who had trailed her rid for nearly 200 miles. It was just after midnight on a late September Tuesday when she finally saw the faint orange glow of the rest area lights. She'd been driving almost 11 hours straight, her body begging for sleep. She couldn't push her logbook any farther. She needed the break. The rest stop looked dead. 2 trucks parked far apart. No cars. No movement. Just desert wind sweeping dust across cracked pavement. Raina parked her dark green Kenworth, shut down the engine, scanned her mirrors, and saw nothing unusual. She had no idea the gray Toyota Crown she'd occasionally noticed hours earlier had been following her since Kingman, always far enough to stay invisible, but never far enough to lose her. Tonight was exactly what he waited for, an isolated stop, an exhausted driver, and not a single witness in sight. After securing her load, Raina climbed into her sleeper berth. Her rig was her tiny home fridge, microwave, TV, warm bed. She slipped into a t-shirt and joggers, crawled under the blanket, and let exhaustion swallow her. In the shadows near the building, the man from the Toyota watched. 2 hours later, Raina's eyes snapped open. A sound. Soft. Slow. Scratching. She stayed still, listening. It wasn't wind. It wasn't an animal. It was too steady, metal dragging across metal. She moved quietly to her windshield. Nothing outside had changed. Same trucks. Same darkness. Same empty lot. But the scratching grew louder, coming from the driver's side near the fuel tanks. Fuel thieves could drain a truck dry in minutes. She'd never dealt with one personally, but she knew drivers who had. She grabbed her phone, no signal. Typical for this stretch of desert. Flashlight in hand, she eased her door open and stepped barefoot into the cold night air. The second she hit the ground, the scratching stopped. Then she heard it, movement sliding toward the back of her trailer. She hugged the shadows and crept forward. When she rounded the corner, she froze. A man was crouched at her air brake lines, cordless drill in hand. He wasn't stealing fuel. He was disabling her truck. Her flashlight flicked on before she could stop herself. "Hey! What are you doing?" The man jerked his head up. And instantly Raina knew she had made a terrible mistake. A half mask covered his face. His eyes glowed unnaturally in the beam. He rose slowly. "I was wondering when you'd wake up." He was huge. 6'4", thick-built, moving with a confidence carved from years of violence. Raina backed up. He stepped forward. She spun and ran straight toward the rest area building. She grabbed the door, yanked, locked. Automatically locked at night. Reinforced glass. No way in. She was trapped outside with him. His voice echoed across the empty lot. "There's nowhere to go. I've been watching you since Quartz Bend. I know everything about you." Raina Holloway, 41, Rexford Freight. "Lives alone in Reno? You perfect." Her stomach dropped. He knew her name. Her employer. Her home. This wasn't random. This was a hunt. She darted behind the maintenance shed. Locked too, but scattered nearby was a pile of tools, cones, scrap metal, wrenches. She grabbed a heavy lug wrench and backed up. The man stepped into the light, mask gone now. Weathered face. Gray hair. Dead, empty eyes. "That won't save you," he said quietly. "I've done this 14 times. Raina felt her breath catch. 14 women. "Police are coming," she lied, voice shaking. He laughed. Hollow. Cold. "There's no signal here. I checked." "Nobody's coming." He drew a long hunting knife. The blade flashed under the lights. Raina struck first, slamming the wrench into his shoulder. He stumbled, but didn't fall. Then he lunged. They fought in the darkness, ducking behind barriers, using corners to block each other. Raina's lungs burned. He was bigger, stronger, relentless. She was surviving on pure fear. He eventually ripped the wrench from her hand and threw it aside. Now she was unarmed, and he still had the knife. He stepped toward her for the final time, and headlights exploded across the rest stop as a massive freightliner pulled in, air brakes hissing loud enough to shake the night. Raina screamed, "Help! Please help." The driver, Jonas Rivers, 30 years on the road, jumped out with a shotgun in his hands. "What the hell is going on?" The killer froze. One witness. One weapon. His entire plan ruined. He spun, sprinted for the Toyota hidden behind the shed, jumped in, and vanished into the desert like a ghost. Jonas ran to Raina, catching her as she collapsed. She told him everything with shaking hands. Jonas grabbed his satellite phone and called it in. 1 hour later, the rest stop was crawling with Arizona DPS, FBI, and crime scene units. They identified the attacker as Raymond Connors, 57, a drifter tied to murders of female truckers across 4 states. The FBI had been tracking him for months, always one step behind. 4 days later, his Toyota was found crashed in a canyon 12 miles away. He died on impact. And inside the car, files filled with surveillance notes, photos, home addresses, schedules, dozens of female truckers. Raina's folder was the thickest. The outrage that followed pushed trucking companies nationwide to upgrade safety brighter lights at rest stops, law enforcement patrols, emergency call stations, better training for night drivers. Raina stayed on the road for 2 more years, but the feeling of safety never returned. She installed cameras, alarms, double locks, changed routes, avoided isolated rest areas, refused to sleep at night unless she had no choice. In 2026, she finally left long-haul trucking for a local job in Phoenix, coming home every night. But whenever she passes the stretch of Highway 95, where the old Silver Dunes rest point once stood, now demolished and replaced, she remembers the man with the knife, the drill, and the dead eyes. She remembers how close she came to being victim number 15. Truckers still tell her story today as a warning that the worst danger on America's highways isn't the storms or the breakdowns. It's the monsters walking around disguised as ordinary people. The ones who hunt the lonely places, wait for darkness, and listen for the moment a scream disappears into the empty desert air. Riley Marlowe had been hauling long-distance freight for nearly 20 years, and in all that time on America's endless highways, she had never faced anything she couldn't eventually explain. At 40 years old, she was one of her company's most trusted drivers. Steady, sharp, and known for delivering high-value cargo across thousands of miles without a single incident. But what happened to her on one blistering summer run across the southwestern United States pushed her past everything she understood about logic and reality. It left investigators speechless, skeptics quiet, and Riley terrified of empty highways at night. Her trip began like any other high-value transport. The pickup was at a secure facility in Tacoma, Washington, state-of-the-art electronics, nearly 40,000 pounds of servers, encrypted devices, and specialized components worth over $3.8 million. The company fitted her trailer with double GPS trackers, biometric locks, and a strict interstate route with 0 deviation. Even her rest stops were pre-approved. Riley didn't mind. High-value loads came with high pay. She signed everything, photographed the seals, checked the cooling system, and rolled out just before sunrise. She made great progress through Washington and Idaho. The reefer hummed perfectly. She checked the seals twice untouched. GPS logs flawless. No shocks, no tilt alerts, no sign of tampering. Everything felt normal. That night she slept at a busy truck stop outside Boise, confident and relaxed. At dawn, she stepped out for her usual walk around. That was when something felt wrong. The trailer felt lighter, not dramatically, just subtly enough for a veteran like Riley to sense it through the suspension. Cooling system normal, GPS normal. Biometric locks untouched, seals intact. But something inside her chest tightened. She unlocked the trailer, broke the seals, and rolled the doors open. Everything was gone. Every pallet. Every box. Every piece of equipment. The trailer was completely empty, as if the entire load had evaporated. The straps still lay on the floor exactly where they would have been securing a full load. No scratch marks. No footprints. No debris. No signs of entry. Riley stood frozen, unable to breathe. With shaking hands, she called her dispatcher. "The load is gone," she whispered. "Everything is gone." Within an hour, the entire truck stop swarmed with investigators, state police, federal agents, insurance teams, and a representative from the client. They tore through the trailer, checked the satellite logs, reviewed every camera at the truck stop. The result was impossible. Riley's truck never moved. No one walked near it. The trailer was never opened. No tampering, no disturbance. Yet the cargo was gone. Investigators grilled her for weeks. Polygraphs, financial audits, surveillance of her accounts, background sweeps. She passed every test. No connection to theft. No motive. Nothing. She was cleared, but nobody truly believed her. In the trucking world, whispers followed her. Dispatchers hesitated. Shippers refused to risk valuable freight. Riley didn't blame them. She didn't trust herself anymore either. 3 months later, she finally got another high-value load medical equipment from Denver to Nashville. She followed every rule obsessively, checked the GPS every hour, and stopped only at secure locations. But she had to take her mandatory rest at a monitored truck stop outside Topeka. She barely slept. At sunrise, she walked to the trailer, heart pounding. She opened it. Half the cargo was gone. Same untouched seals. Same perfect locks. Same impossible emptiness. Her company suspended her again. Insurance agencies were furious. Investigators were clueless. She changed trucks. Cargo still vanished. She switched companies. It followed her. She changed routes. It followed. She even stopped hauling expensive freight. Still, ordinary, worthless cargo would sometimes disappear overnight. The more it happened, the stranger it became. Federal investigators eventually uncovered a disturbing pattern. Other drivers across the country had reported similar impossible disappearances over the past 15 years. Different states, different companies, different people. But Riley was the only one it happened to repeatedly. Whatever was behind these vanishings had attached itself to her. Some investigators blamed advanced tech. Others whispered wild theories, dimensional tears, wormholes, phenomena that didn't obey physical laws. Riley ignored all of it, until the incidents started happening when she wasn't hauling anything valuable. One night in Tennessee, hauling nothing but bottled water, she woke with a jolt. Something felt wrong. She ran outside, locks untouched. Seals perfect. Doors never opened. Inside, every pallet of water was gone. That night, she quit long-haul trucking for good. She took a local job in Spokane. No trailers left overnight. No highway stops. No long routes. For almost a year, nothing happened. Riley finally felt like she could breathe again. Then one afternoon, under full daylight, surrounded by people and cameras, she opened her trailer to deliver office supplies. 3 pallets were missing. Cameras showed no one touching the trailer. People had been standing 20 feet away the entire time. Nothing made sense. Riley collapsed to her knees. Something was following her. Something that didn't care about locks, cameras, science, or reality. Something that slipped in and out of existence long enough to take what it wanted and leave nothing behind. The FBI keeps her case under a chilling classification. Unresolved cargo intervention. Unknown external agency. It answers nothing. Today, Riley refuses to drive with a trailer at all. Even an empty one terrifies her. Because she knows the truth. The moment she closes those doors, whatever is out there comes back. And it always will. Marlon Pierce had been hauling freight across the Southwest for nearly 25 years, long enough to know every whisper, rattle, shiver, and vibration of his rig. He knew the hum of desert wind sliding across open flats at night, the way cold air seeped through cracked rubber seals on long winter runs, and the lonely taste that came from hundreds of miles of empty asphalt. Nothing surprised him anymore. Highway wrecks, drunk drivers drifting across lanes, abandoned mining towns, strange lights floating above desert ridges. Marlon had seen them all, and none of them scared him. He was 60 years old now, a seasoned driver with a calm, steady voice, the kind of man highway rookies asked for advice when storms rolled in or brakes burned out. But one cold January night, heading into the barren outskirts of southern Nevada, he ran into something no amount of road wisdom could prepare him for. It began around 1:00 a.m. He was pushing south on Highway 47, hauling engine parts from Salt Lake City down toward Las Vegas. A familiar route, narrow highway, rocky desert shoulders, faded rest stops left over from the 1970s. The stars were dim, the moon was weak, and the night felt unnaturally quiet. Channel 19, normally buzzing with jokes, chatter, warnings, and dirty humor from bored truckers, was dead silent. Marlon figured most drivers were asleep or off route. But that silence felt heavy, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. Then the static started. A slow hiss at first, almost delicate, like sand shifting against metal. He tapped the CB. Probably cold air messing with reception, but the hiss grew sharper, louder, crackling like electric sparks dancing across wires. Before he could adjust the squelch, a faint voice slipped through the static. Not clean, not clear, like it was crawling out of a deep, grainy tunnel. Breaker 9, calling all southbound. Anyone got a copy? Marlin raised an eyebrow. That wasn't normal. He leaned forward, adjusting knobs with practiced fingers. The voice sharpened just enough to understand. This is Long Shadow, southbound on Highway 47. Y'all slow down past mile marker 122. Trooper hiding behind the burned billboard. Marlin frowned. He had just passed marker 122 20 minutes earlier. The billboard was there, burned and half collapsed, but nobody had been behind it. No trooper. No headlights. Nothing at all. He grabbed the mic. Long Shadow, this is Road Wolf. I just rolled through 102, didn't see no law out there. You sure, driver? Silence. A long one. Then the static swallowed the voice whole. Marlin stared at the CB, a small chill creeping under his jacket. Something about the tone of that voice, the way it sounded like it was pushing through mud, it didn't sit right. But he kept rolling. 10 minutes later, the radio crackled again. Breaker 19. This is Black Lantern coming eastbound. That construction zone near marker 108 is bottlenecked tight. Watch your mirrors. Marlin snorted. There hadn't been construction on 47 in years. He keyed up. Black Lantern, come back. I'm heading toward 28 right now. Ain't a single cone or sign out here. No answer. Just static again. That unease returned deeper this time. These voices were naming exact mile markers on his route, but the warnings were years outdated. It felt wrong. Like listening to old recordings mixed with live radio. He kept driving. The night grew colder, darker, emptier. No animals crossed the pavement. No other rigs passed in either direction. Even the wind felt muted, like the whole desert was holding its breath. Then a third voice cut through. A woman. Mayday, mayday, anyone on frequency. Brakes gone, brakes gone. Marlin's stomach tightened. The panic in her voice wasn't acted. It was real, raw, terrified. This is Sunflower, Blue Freightliner, southbound at marker 97. I'm on the downgrade. Can't slow her down. Somebody help, marker 97. He knew that spot too well. A brutal downhill curve known among older drivers as Dead Man's Turn. Many never made that bend. He grabbed the mic fast. Sunflower. Road Wolf here. There's an emergency ramp on the right. Hit the engine brake. Her breath came in sharp, trembling bursts. Engine brake's dead, pedal's dead, can't slow her. Oh God, tell my girl I'm sorry. Static detonated, exploding through the cab. Then, nothing. A heavy, suffocating silence. Marlin eased his rig toward the shoulder near marker 97 and stepped out with a flashlight. The cold slapped him instantly. He scanned the darkness. No skid marks, no fresh dents in the guardrail, no wreckage. Only the old scars left behind by dozens of trucks over the decades. What the hell did I just hear? He whispered. Hours later, when he reached North Las Vegas and pulled into a truck stop diner, he found 3 older drivers sipping coffee. Men with silver beards, leather vests, and eyes that carried the weight of stories they wouldn't tell out loud. Marlin sat with them. You boys ever hear weird chatter on 19 near Highway 47? He asked. The oldest man, Hank Granger, froze with his cup halfway to his lips. You heard him, didn't you? He said quietly. Another driver leaned in, expression tight. Voices. From the dead. Marlin stared. What you mean, dead? Hank's voice dropped low. Long Shadow. Died of a stroke in his cab back in '04. Black Lantern rolled his truck on black ice in '99. And Sunflower, her real name was Lily Carson, lost her brakes on marker 97 in '93. Never made the curve. Marlin didn't move. His chest tightened. You're saying I heard truckers who died decades ago? The men nodded slowly. Highway 47's cursed ground, Hank muttered. Some say the desert records things like a tape. Some say spirits bleed through the CB when the veil thins. The second driver added, You ain't the first to hear 'em. Won't be the last. But once they call you, once they know you're handled, they keep on coming back. Marlin didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in engines, brakes, torque, and tread depth. But the next week, heading north again, Channel 19 began whispering before he even hit the state line. Breaker, 9, shadow light westbound. Watch for debris. Southbound, this is Hawklaw, storm coming in strong. Black Lantern, anybody got a copy? And then they started asking for him by name. Road Wolf, you out there? Sometimes they warned him of storms still hours away. Sometimes of patrol cars waiting around blind curves. Once they whispered about a jackknifed rig blocking a bend, 5 minutes before the first emergency alert hit. The living couldn't warn him that fast. One night, near the Nevada border, he heard the one voice he feared most. Road Wolf, you hear me? His heart jumped. Sunflower? You. Road Wolf, she whispered, soft and cracked. Don't take the canyon route tonight. Rockslide waiting. Go the long way. Marlin checked his GPS. No alerts. No warnings. Nothing. But he trusted her anyway. Hours later, the radio reported a massive rock slide crushing both lanes of the canyon. If he'd gone through at that time, he would have been directly under it. The dead had saved him, but being marked by the dead came with its own price. He began losing sleep, started hearing faint voices even when the CB was switched off. Woke up at rest stops feeling eyes on him. Sometimes his radio clicked on by itself. Sometimes he heard slow, deliberate knocking inside his sleeper berth, too rhythmic, too steady to be the wind. And always, beneath it all, Sunflower's voice drifted like smoke. Stay safe, Road Wolf. Stay alive. Don't join us yet. Truckers feared accidents, blowouts, icy bridges, brake failures. Marlin feared the voices whispering through dead airwaves. After nearly a year of ghost warnings, phantom chatter, and sleepless nights, he made a decision. He abandoned Highway 47 entirely, took longer routes, safer roads, burned extra fuel. Anything to get away. But he never truly escaped. Even on empty desert highways in Utah or Arizona, his hand drifted to the CB switch. Listening. Waiting. And sometimes, only sometimes, a familiar whisper slithered out of the static. Road Wolf, you out there? He never replied now. Answering only pulled him closer. But he kept listening, because deep down, he knew the truth. The truckers of Highway 47 never stopped driving, never stopped talking, never stopped warning. They were trapped on the road where they died, forever drifting across the desert, broadcasting into the night. And one day, someday soon, they would call for him again. Damon Ricks was only 27, a young dude still earning his stripes on the highways, when the road showed him something he would never outrun. He used to believe the scariest things out there were blown tires, reckless drivers, or the loneliness that creeps into your cab at 3 a.m. But what happened one warm July night along Interstate 40 out near the Texas-New Mexico line proved that the real danger wasn't the road. It was what hunted on it. He'd been hauling industrial generators from Chicago down to Phoenix, running late after crawling for hours through construction outside Tulsa. By the time he crossed the Texas border, the sun was slipping beneath the desert horizon, turning the sky into a smear of deep oranges, purples, and dying gold. Damon planned to make it to a truck stop just past Gallup for his mandatory rest. Easy plan. Quiet road, straight shot. But the silence, that's what got him. His CB radio, normally full of chatter about local weather, smoky sightings, and jokes dirty enough to make asphalt blush, had been stone dead for nearly an hour. Only static. Little bursts, like something trying to punch through but dying halfway. Damon tapped the radio twice, adjusted the squelch, checked the channel. Nothing. Not a single trucker voice on one of the busiest interstate routes in America. That was the first thing that felt wrong. He climbed a long stretch of road through a piece of desert so empty it looked like God forgot to finish it. No houses, no ranches, no rest stops, not even a stray billboard. Just a ribbon of pavement cutting through raw earth. That's when he saw it. A flicker of red and blue behind him, distant but bright enough to stand out in the rising dusk. A traffic stop. Nothing unusual at first glance. Looked like a highway patrol cruiser had somebody pulled over about a mile back. But the longer Damon watched those lights, the more something crawled under his skin. They didn't flash like normal squad lights. They strobed, too fast, too bright, almost flickering. The whole scene sat in the middle of absolute nowhere. No second unit. No radio chatter. No movement around the cars. Just those lights. Weird. Unsettling. Damon tried to shake it off. Maybe the officer had upgraded lights. Maybe they caught a drunk driver. Could be anything. But his instincts wouldn't shut up. Something about that lonely stretch being chosen for a stop bothered him. Cops don't like isolation unless they have backup. Drivers don't speed where there's nothing around. Truckers always warn each other about law enforcement. So where were the warnings? His stomach knotted. Finally, he thumbed the CB. Breaker 19, this is Roadrunner southbound on I-40. Anyone else see that patrol vehicle lighting someone up around mile marker 210? Silence. Dead silence. That never happened. Not on this route, not at this hour. Damon's pulse picked up. Something felt off, but curiosity pulled him harder than fear. Against every decent survival instinct he had, he took the next exit, crossed the overpass, and backtracked east. When he returned to the spot, the police cruiser was gone. What wasn't gone was the car it had pulled over. A silver Nissan Sentra sat crooked on the shoulder, both front doors hanging wide open like something tore them apart. A purse lay spilled on the passenger seat. Keys still dangled from the ignition. The dome light glowed dimly, throwing a pale circle over empty seats and scattered belongings. Damon eased his rig onto the shoulder, grabbed his maglite with one hand and his crowbar with the other. The desert was so quiet, it felt drained of sound. Even the wind had died. His boots crunched on gravel as he approached the car. The rear bumper had fresh dents, small but recent, like it had been nudged or rammed. Then he heard it. A scream. A woman's scream, high, ragged, tearing through the night like someone ripping fabric with a blade. It came from somewhere beyond the fence line, out in the brush. Damon's breath hitched. Suddenly, everything clicked. The lights were fake. The cop wasn't a cop. And the silence on his CB? That wasn't an accident. He whipped out his phone. No service. No bars. Not even one. He tried calling anyway. The call failed instantly, like the phone wasn't even trying. That's when he spotted it. Something small, blinking faintly on a nearby mesquite tree. He swung his flashlight beam toward it. A black box. 2 antennae. A signal jammer. A deliberate setup. Nothing about this was random. With adrenaline pounding in his ears, Damon vaulted the fence and sprinted toward the scream. His light cut through thorny brush, kicking up dust and shadows. About 40 yards in, the land opened into a small clearing. That's where he saw them. A man in a fake police uniform knelt over a young woman, maybe mid-20s, zip-tying her wrists. She was bruised, terrified, barely conscious. The man's back was turned until Damon bellowed, "Hey, get off her!" The man turned. Slow, deliberate. And Damon's blood went ice cold. The guy had dead eyes, flat, emotionless, like he wasn't looking at a person. Like he wasn't human. A slow, chilling smirk crept across his face. Wrong place, wrong time, trucker. Then he lifted a hunting knife. Should have kept driving. Damon took a step forward, gripping the crowbar so hard his knuckles hurt. "Real police are coming. I called them." The man chuckled, tapping the jammer with the tip of his knife. "No, you didn't. Nobody calls out here." There was no bluff in his voice. No fear. Just cold satisfaction. Damon realized then, this wasn't his first time. This clearing. This routine. The uniform. The lights. The timing. All of it was rehearsed. Perfected. The woman whimpered, "Help, please." Damon kept on talking, trying to protect her from the blade. Why her? Why anybody? How many people have you done this to? The man's smile widened. "Enough to master my craft." A beat passed. "She's number 32. You'll be 33. That number punched a hole in Damon's gut. 32. Before he could move, the killer shifted, putting himself between Damon and the girl, knife poised. Damon couldn't rush him. The girl was too close. They circled each other, slow and tense, each step edging the knife closer to her throat. Damon's heart hammered so loud it drowned the desert. Then, floodlights erupted from the brush. A New Mexico State Police cruiser burst into the clearing, spotlight locking onto the man in the fake uniform. Gravel sprayed. The trooper threw his door open, weapon raised. Drop the knife. Hands where I can see them. The fake cop tried to bluff. Undercover operation? Step back. But everything was wrong. Wrong badge. Wrong patches. Wrong boots. Wrong tone. The trooper tackled him before he could finish the lie. The knife hit the dirt. The killer shrieked high, animalistic, furious, as he struggled against the cuffs. The woman, Emily Larson, 24, a traveling nurse from Wisconsin, was rushed to safety. Damon stood there in the flashing lights, chest heaving, sweat mixing with dust. The fear hit him only after the danger was over. His hand shook as he looked at the clearing, at the place where a monster's ritual had finally been broken. Authorities searched the area and found the killer's hidden van behind a ridge. What they discovered inside made seasoned investigators go silent. The van was a mobile torture setup, stolen police lights, several fake uniforms, zip ties, duct tape, photos of past victims, and personal items belonging to at least 17 missing people. Worst of all was the notebook, a ledger. Names, dates, locations, and victim numbers. Investigators linked the man, Grant Mercer, 49, to at least 28 murders across 6 states over nearly 12 years. He hunted lonely nighttime drivers, staging fake traffic stops in isolated stretches, using signal jammers, and switching vehicles, uniforms, and states constantly. He was organized, methodical, careful, efficient. And without Damon looping back, without that gut instinct he couldn't shake, the cycle would have continued. The woman would have been number 32. Damon would have been 33. For Damon, life never snapped back to normal. He kept driving trucks, but the road didn't feel the same. Not anymore. Every quiet moment felt like the calm before something unseen. Every abandoned car made his heartbeat spike. Every weird light in his mirrors made him grip the steering wheel a little tighter. He checked everything twice, sometimes 3 times. He never forgot Emily's face or the terror in her eyes. And he never forgot Grant Mercer's dead stare in that clearing. Word of what happened spread fast across truck stops from coast to coast. Damon's name turned into a kind of warning passed from driver to driver. If something feels off, stop. Look again. Because on America's endless highways, monsters don't hide under beds. They hide in plain sight. Behind fake badges. Behind broken taillights. Behind lonely stretches of asphalt where nobody can hear you scream. And sometimes, the only thing standing between a victim and a predator is a tired young trucker who refuses to ignore a bad feeling on a quiet highway. Mara Ellington had been running coast-to-coast freight for almost 14 years when she rolled into the Prairie Moon Travel Center outside Redwater, Nebraska, expecting nothing more than fuel, dinner, and a quiet hour to stretch her legs. At 46, she was a veteran of the highway, someone who had survived blizzards, sudden tornado warnings, sketchy rest areas, and the lonely silence of 1,000-mile nights. She'd seen fights break out in truck stop diners, watched meteor showers arc over the desert, and spent more nights than she liked parked in places that felt haunted even when they weren't. But nothing in all those years prepared her for what that October night would show her about time, memory, and the fragile line between what's real and what isn't. Prairie Moon was familiar to her, too familiar. She had stopped here dozens of times on her usual east-to-west route. The place sat alone off Interstate 92, a clean little travel center with cheap fuel, a 24-hour diner, and showers that didn't make you gag. The parking lot lights were bright enough to keep thieves away. Drivers trusted the place. Mara trusted it. For years, it had been her predictable little bubble of safety in the middle of the Great Plains. A home away from home. But that night, Prairie Moon wasn't safety. It was a cage. She had been hauling home improvement supplies from Charlotte to Boise, making great time thanks to clear skies across the Midwest. She pulled in around 8:47 p.m., planning to fuel up, eat, stretch her back, and hit the road before midnight. She wanted to reach Wyoming before the cold front made the road slick. Everything felt ordinary, almost too ordinary. The truck lot held around 20 rigs, all neatly lined up. A few cars were moving through the pump stations. Inside the diner, warm yellow lights glowed over booths and counter stools, and Mara recognized a couple faces from previous runs, drivers she'd talked to in passing over the years. It should have comforted her. It should have made her feel relaxed. But something in her gut tightened instead. Routine wasn't calming her tonight. It was making the air feel staged. She shrugged it off and walked into the diner. It smelled like every truck stop kitchen in America. Frying oil, stale coffee, something baking in the back. The waitress, Gina, gave her that same worn smile she always did. Mara ordered her usual open-faced roast beef sandwich, mashed potatoes drowning in gravy, and black coffee that tasted strong enough to bring the dead back for one last shift. She ate, watched her truck through the window, and listened to the low hum of conversations. Nothing strange. Nothing suspicious. Just a quiet night. After finishing, she paid, used the restroom, and returned to her truck. She turned the key, checked her gauges, and eased out of the lot. Her dashboard clock read 9:14 p.m. She merged onto I-92 West, ready for a long stretch of open road. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. That's when she noticed it. A vibe she couldn't shake. The road looked familiar. Not in a normal way, in a wrong way. Her eyes narrowed. Another mile. Her stomach twisted. On her right, glowing against the dark Nebraska horizon, stood the neon Prairie Moon sign she had just driven away from. Prairie Moon. Travel Center 24 hours. Same tilted R. Same flickering L. Same burnt-out chunk in the word. Center. What the hell, she muttered. Her GPS insisted she had traveled 7 miles west. 7 miles. But somehow, she was pulling up to the exact same truck stop she had just left minutes earlier. She tried to convince herself it was a glitch. Bad mapping. Maybe the interstate looped weirdly. Maybe Nebraska roads were messing with her sense of direction. But neon signs don't teleport. She didn't turn in. She drove past the entrance, speeding up, determined to outrun the illusion. But the highway curved smoothly. Too smoothly. Like a gentle hand guiding her, and funneled her right back toward the glowing sign again. Within 10 minutes, she was passing Prairie Moon for the 3rd time. She had not turned around once. Fear crawled up her spine like a cold hand gripping her from behind. This time she pulled in. The lot looked exactly the same. Same trucks. Same cars. Same lineup of rigs, parked in the identical positions as before. Same silhouettes of people through the diner windows. But the worst part hit her the moment she checked the time. Her watch said 8:47 p.m., the same time she had parked earlier. Her phone said 8:47. Her dashboard clock said 8:47. Her GPS said 8:47. Her entire hour, fueling, eating, checking tires, driving, gone. Erased. And yet, she remembered it. She remembered every bite of food. She remembered leaving. She remembered seeing the road bend unnaturally. She remembered the loop tightening around her like a noose. Confusion turned into dread. Determined to break whatever this was, Mara tried the eastbound ramp instead. If west took her back to Prairie Moon, maybe east would break the pattern. But no. Minutes down the road, the interstate bent again and led her straight back to Prairie Moon, which glowed like it had been waiting for her. Another reset. Another 8:47 p.m. She tried going north on a farm road. South down the service lane. Fast. Slow. With headlights off. Driving in circles. Following another truck. Driving alone. Even off-roading into the fields. Every direction led her back to the same place, the same sign, the same time. Prairie Moon at 8:47 p.m. Forever. Hours might have passed. Or maybe none did. Time refused to act normal. She was moving, breathing, thinking, but the world wasn't. At some point, she started noticing the repeats. She'd walk into the diner and hear the same conversations word for word. Same jokes. Same orders. Same gestures. Gina always greeted her the same way. Cold night out there. Coffee'll warm you up. Exactly the same tone. Exactly the same smile. Every time. It was like watching a movie scene someone kept replaying. After what she estimated was the 20th reset, Mara stayed in her truck and waited to watch it happen. She watched the clock hit the moment she knew everything shifted. 8:47 p.m. The world glitched. Reality wobbled like a heat mirage. Then it reversed, literally reversed, like she was watching time flow backward. Trucks backed into parking spaces. People walked backward into booths. Coffee refilled into cups. Leaves floated upward. But one truck broke the pattern. One semi wasn't rewinding like the others. It was misaligned, like it had lagged behind the rest of the world for a split second. A crack in the illusion. A flaw. A weakness. She studied each reset after that, noticing slight errors. A coffee cup placed differently. A driver scratching his chin too early. A stray dog appearing, sometimes, but not always. The loop wasn't perfect, and if it wasn't perfect, maybe she could slip out. On what she guessed was the 30th cycle, she stayed in the diner, sitting in the same booth, watching the clock approach 8:47. As the reset began, her vision wavered. But this time, something snapped. For one horrible second, the illusion collapsed completely. The diner flickered like a dying light bulb. The walls rotted, the ceiling sagged. Everyone's faces melted into hollow outlines, empty masks. Prairie Moon was dead. The building was a ruined corpse, windows shattered. Signs rusted, fuel pumps half collapsed. The concrete cracked and overgrown with weeds. Everything around her was an echo, a memory frozen in time, replaying forever on a loop. These people weren't alive. They weren't even ghosts. They were residues of a moment from years ago. A broken fragment of time had trapped her inside it. When the reset snapped her back into the clean diner version, her heart hammered so hard she felt dizzy. But now she understood the truth. The only way out was to reject the illusion completely. When the next loop restarted at 8:74:7, she sprinted out of the diner, jumped into her truck, and without a second of hesitation floored the accelerator straight toward the diner wall, the same wall that always looked solid during the loops. "Please don't kill me," she whispered. She braced for impact. She didn't crash into a wall, she crashed through it. The illusion shattered like glass. Her truck plowed through rotted wood and collapsed beams. Dust exploded around her as the real Prairie Moon. The ruined, abandoned, corpse-like version crumbled beneath her headlights. The place wasn't operating. It hadn't been for years. Her lights revealed nothing but rusted truck frames, broken asphalt, forgotten debris, and pitch-black emptiness. No lights, no people, no voices, no loops. Just a dead ruin sitting in the dark Nebraska plains. She didn't stop driving until the wreckage disappeared in her mirrors. Minutes later, she saw the real lights of Redwater ahead. Vibrant, modern, alive. People walking. Cars moving. The world behaving like the world again. Her dashboard clock now read 11:56 p.m. She had escaped. She never filed a report. Nobody would have believed her anyway. Instead, she quietly researched Prairie Moon's history. She learned the travel center shut down in 2004 after 3 mysterious disappearances and a fatal multi-truck collision blamed on visibility anomalies. Locals said the land was cursed. She didn't doubt it anymore. For the rest of her career, Mara checked every unfamiliar truck stop on her phone before pulling in. She made sure it existed in the present, not in some dying echo of time. Because she knew the truth now. Somewhere out there, scattered across forgotten highways, other loops were waiting. Other traps. Other echoes of moments that refused to die. And if a driver wasn't careful, they might roll into the wrong place at the wrong time and spend eternity trying to escape a moment that would never let them go.